Welcome to the Bestiary, where every episode we examine another monster from the Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual. Join us at Alignment May Vary on Twitch, or listen to our podcast, which comes out a week later, on alignmentmayvary.com. Ask and get your questions answered on our Facebook page, or by sending us an email to alignmentmayvary@gmail.com. Enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Bestiary. My name is Morganite, and I'll be co-hosting this today with John. John, say hello.
Hello.
And we are joined with Kayvon and Elliface today. We are here to talk about Aboleths. Ellie, would you like to introduce yourself?
That's not how this is gonna work, Morga. Say it.
I'm putting her on the spot.
Read it.
Okay. I'll read it. I'll go for it here. So, today we have Elliface, the chief executive face of PH16, a Philly-centric stream team, the host of Cooking with Heat, the producer and irresponsible cleric of Dungeons & Dragons and Chicken, and Twitch's only themed month gamer, Elliface.
Why, thank you, Jonathan. That was an incredible intro.
I know.
It's almost like we rehearsed it.
We didn't.
We totally did.
Ellie, I have probably the most important question of the evening for you.
I'm married. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. That's all.
Sorry,
We're
guys,
done,
I'm sorry.
everybody. Thank
Peace
you
out.
so
Good
much for
night.
joining us, and we'll
plot has
see
been
you
foiled.
next time. Can you please tell us what the monster is you've chosen for this episode and why?
So I chose Aboleths, mostly because I don't know much about them. I do want to know more about Aboleths. My one encounter with an Aboleth is in the Tomb of Annihilation, where I got to communicate telepathically with this supposedly evil being.
Oh.
And I kind of wanted to make friends. So let's talk about making friends with
As you do.
Aboleths. Let's Mr. Rogers Aboleths today.
That is incredible. Well, we should start probably by telling everybody what an aboleth is.
Wait, is it
Does,
Aboleth or Oboleth?
And I think we've said it 3 or 4 ways tonight, so that's
Great.
amazing.
Aboleths.
I've heard. Okay, I heard a interview with Chris Perkins where he called it aboleth, and that's what I've always gone with. But that may not be true. Let's say.
I mean, we'll all say it however we want, and we'll let the future generations decide.
Maybe we should say it 4 different ways and have a vote at the end.
Set up a poll, yeah.
So, who wants to tell us what an aboleth looks like and what it does? Kayvon?
Sure,
Morganite?
sure.
Kayvon,
It's
go for it.
a very large. The only ones you'll ever run into are 20-foot long, giant fish, kind of fish-headed, tentacle-faced squid creatures. They have 3 eyes, you know.
Yeah, that is a bit weird.
A big mouth on its underbelly. They're covered in mucus, and you don't want to get anywhere near them. Oh, and they can control your mind. That's also, yeah.
I'll throw in there too, like for anyone who's kind of having trouble getting in the general flavor of these things, really think H.P. Lovecraft. I mean, this is more than any other monster. I know we did Mind Flayers last time, which was, very Lovecraft, but the Aboleths are like pure Lovecraft. They are inspired by it. They were taken almost from it. They were very much inspired by Cthulhu. They are deep sea creatures, masters of the worlds they find themselves on, sort of the secret hidden masters, and they are ancient. They are antediluvian creatures.
Oh, you're going to have to define that word, my man.
Antediluvian means really cool to say, and that's my favorite. That's why we use it. Now, antediluvian is ancient, ancient beyond ancient.
Before time.
Before time. Yeah, I actually think that is what it means. I think that's the literal language translation is before time. So, well, Ellie, that is our layout. You said you have questions. You wish to know what these things
I know.
are.
Okay, so I know there's a point every episode of the Bestiary where we all have to speak about what's on the forefront of everyone's minds, and that's what is the cloaca status?
The cloaca status.
Reproduction,
Yes.
indeed.
This is a good one because there's actually some. I've had some different sources on this one. So, John, I want you to go forward on this, and then I'll tell you if I heard something differently.
If you heard something different about the cloaca,
Just about the reproduction.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like there's a couple versions out there about how they actually reproduce.
The bit that I saw was that they're hermaphroditic.
That is a bit of it.
That's just, the start.
It always starts with a bit, and then it goes a little bit further, and eventually you have a baby. That's how this goes. For those who are watching, I've thrown up an image of the anatomy of the Aboleths. This is taken from the Lords of Madness, which was an incredible source book released for the 3rd edition that covers all the aberrations, and it goes into extreme detail about their reproductive organs and cycle. They are hermaphroditic. They mate with themselves. Apparently, it is somewhat of like a very private thing for them. Like they don't like to do it around the other Aboleths. They kind of close the door, go into their own area, and create little Aboleth eggs. So they start by laying the egg, and then they essentially fertilize the water around the egg, and then the egg takes that in, and they guard it pretty intensely.
That's
until it hatches.
incredibly frog-like for something that's got psychic powers. I don't know.
Do frogs guard their babies? I thought they abandoned their babies.
No, frogs do not guard their babies.
they don't?
Like
Okay.
alligators and stuff.
It's like
will.
sharks.
No, frogs
Sharks
just
that
lay
guard
them
their
and
little
run.
babies. Sharks and whales.
I have
Yeah.
I have a more important question. Aren't frogs psychic?
Well, I guess cat's out of the bag.
I always thought
They never talk to me.
I always thought they were psychic. Those are the voices I'm hearing, right? That's
Clearly.
the frogs.
Clearly.
Kiss me.
I'm calling the cat.
I thought it. No, I thought it was interesting that they don't. It's not just they lay the eggs and guard them, but they guard them for 5 years. I read that it's the gestation period is not super fast.
No, it is not. They will guard them, and yeah, I think it does take 5 years for the eggs to hatch and actually come to mass. And part of this, the reason they do this is because every Aboleth has a perfect memory and a hereditary memory, a cultural memory. So they remember everything that every Aboleth that came before it remembered. And so each Aboleth, while having an individual personality, is very much aware of the fullness of their, should we call them herds? Herds? What do we want?
Group of Aboleths?
Yeah, what do we want to call a group of Aboleths? What do you guys think?
The alpha.
I mean, they're
what
fish.
Just to interrupt for a second, I keep hearing you guys talk about eggs. It's a single egg, not a bunch of eggs, right?
Well, it's 1d3 eggs.
Really?
To be exact.
Where does it say that? Because everywhere I'm reading, it says they have one egg, or they reference a single egg, and they say it produces its one egg and then the amount of years changes. But where do you see somewhere that says clutch or something that says
page 18 of the Lords of Madness says every 5 years they have the urge. They are seized with an urge to make some babies, and they make 1 babies.
Really, that's what it says in there. Okay. Because also in the Dragon magazine, it says Aboleths mate once every 500 years, which is a completely different time frame. This is an earlier. Yeah, and also they in the mating they say each participant has one egg, which implies that it's not a hermaphroditic all by myself process, but something that's happening with at least more than one, since there's each participant.
That sounds like the kind of story that an Aboleth would tell outsiders. Just be like, oh, we have these massive orgies, and like everybody gets it on, and then we all lay an egg.
Years, one child is born.
But in reality, he just runs off to a room by himself, and he just does his thing. He's a little embarrassed by it.
Well, this was translated from like an old elf, so yeah, this is lore being passed from like an ancient elven mage. So it makes sense.
I mean, really, how many people can say they've watched a Aboleth lay eggs and survive to tell the tale?
Yeah, you'd first have to be underwater
and be
really
able to breathe
deep underwater.
really deep underwater.
Yeah,
They make a ring for that.
So John, you're calling foul on or you're calling errata on Dragon Magazine and saying that the Masters of Masters of Darkness or something. What's the name of the book?
Lords of
Lords of
Madness.
Madness as the official tally.
Yeah, Lords of Madness came after. It's written more authoritatively. That like you said, that dragon ecology article is written very much. It preludes it with saying, "Hey, these are the notes taken from some crazy mage who says he met the Aboleth." And then it's like, so don't blame us if it's wrong in 10 years. And so I think they were.
That's a good excuse. I'm just going
wrong.
to start saying all of my facts are the scrawlings of a mad mage, just to throw it out there. What if I'm wrong? It's him. Don't worry about it. It's him.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. So have we satisfied your? I mean, I know we didn't give you cloaca. I know you asked for.
Just
cloaca.
want some cloaca.
Just wanted some fried cloaca up in this, but we didn't get any of that.
Better luck on your next pick.
I will say one last thing on the sexual experiences.
Last thing. Last thing. This is the last time we're going to touch on the Aboleth sexual experience.
Probably not.
Probably not.
If we don't, it's because
No
of
one
Wizard.
does.
It's the Wizard who said it was the last thing. Because their sexual organs are located in the at the end of their tail, they that is a weak spot on Aboleths.
Oh.
They do not like the tail being smacked around. That's some tail smacking.
Don't they use their tail as an attack though?
Well, I wouldn't. If I
No, but I mean, like that's isn't that one of their attacks? Is a tail attack? I'd have to pull up the 5e.
No, there's a tentacle attack.
No.
Oh, there's a tail attack.
Yeah, there's a tail attack.
Bludgeoning damage with their. Well, if that's a squishy soft part, why would they use that to attack you with?
Crazy.
That's silly.
that is a good. I mean, this sounds like it requires more research than I'm willing to do into attacking with those kind of organs.
Sex organ attacks.
Well, okay. So do we want to move into like their combat aspects, like what its capabilities are?
Sure, Ellie. Do you have some questions on the combat? You fought one of these.
Well, we didn't fight it. We didn't
talked.
fight one. We were in the situation. Are spoilers okay? Are spoilers acceptable?
I think for this one, yeah, I think just don't talk about where you faced it and when, and I think we're fine.
The Aboleth that I encountered was trapped for something like 10,000 years, had gone crazy, and was deciding that they were having a playful day. So they didn't want to fight because there was no reason to. We might have been this Aboleth's only way of escape of where it was trapped. So kill us, but then don't kill us, and then it could have gone either way. We ended up not fighting because it would have been hard. I don't want to die.
So how did you get out of that? I'm very curious. How did you get out of that situation?
We made empty promises.
We'll be back, sure, no problem.
Well, it did read it knew our intentions were good. It knew that if we could get back here, we would release it somehow, because it wasn't necessarily an evil creature. I think alignment-wise, it is. Can you correct me on that? Is it alignment
seem
evil?
To usually be evil, like lawful evil.
They are lawful evil.
Yeah.
Okay.
But isn't it also they're just so above the going ons of alignment just doesn't even mean anything? Like to us, it seems evil because they just don't care about us. But really,
I mean, I know that you're trying to say they're like lawful transcendence.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, lawful nirvana.
They're
in this case
post alignment
involves,
or pre alignment. They're pre alignment. Really.
Yeah, I mean, their entire society involves around enslaving other cultures and forcing them to do their bidding until they're done with them, and then eating. Just to give a sense, one of my favorite lines from Lords of Madness was this about what they might do to a slave. Aboleths might brand certain slaves as their own by eating non-essential portions of them.
Oh my God.
So
volunteer your non-essential portion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it's not out of malice. Come on.
It's not out of good. Yeah. I'll say that. So
it was a non-essential portion. You didn't need it.
Yeah. It was for
like
the
a name
branding.
tag.
Yeah, it's like a name tag. A visual name tag. Yeah.
This is an abusive relationship.
Yes. I know that you played with a pretty experienced DM based on what you were
Mm-hmm.
saying. And they played that Aboleth, I would say, completely right. So to get into an Aboleth is one of those encounters where I feel like fighting the Aboleth, reducing it to these physical characteristics of it hits for this much damage and then I hit and beat its AC. Once it comes down to the numbers, you've removed some of the majesty of this creature.
I think that's what our DM was trying to ensure, that we didn't just end up hobo wrecking the Tomb of Annihilation. Like, let's just not destroy the whole place. Let's actually have some involved roleplay here. And I Mr. Rogers did. I'm sorry. Again.
Now, when you say you Mr. Rogers it, does that mean you took off the sweater and then the shoes?
Yeah,
and the
real
socks?
comfy in our conversation.
I asked him to be my neighbor. Like, legitimately, we have a pub in Waterdeep in the game that we play, and I invited him. It's right next to the docks. I invited him to come by for 5-day night fights, and he was cool with it. Like, we were gonna meet up after. We were gonna be pals.
So why did you end up not freeing him then?
It's no spoilers. We couldn't get back to that location.
Okay.
Tomb of Annihilation fuckery.
He probably would have eaten you or turned you into a slave if you had returned. So
Maybe.
probably best.
Oh,
not
we
about
got
it.
some good deals to
50-50
offer.
coin toss, yeah.
Yeah.
I love the idea of him just crashing through the wall of your pub and being like, serve me up
What up,
one.
nerds? Yeah.
Hold up, I gotta go have a baby. I'll be back.
In 5 years.
See you in 5 years. Time is nothing. Bye.
Right.
Jeez.
But I will say about their combat abilities, one of the interesting things about them, compared to the other creatures we've done on the Bestiary, is they really haven't changed that much. I was impressed to see that they really have retained all of the same characteristics that they've had since the very beginning. And these are one of the earliest monsters. They're not in the very first release of Dungeons and Dragons, but they come pretty quickly after that. And by the time of the first, definitely by the time of second edition, they're a well-established creature. But amongst some of their more interesting abilities, for one, they are psychic creatures, and they always come with some kind of enslavement ability or psychic attack. In this case, they can use that psychic attack in between everyone's turn as part of their legendary actions. So they can do quite a bit of damage with that.
Brutal.
The two most interesting things to me are their tentacles. When they hit with them, when they touch you, you become diseased and your skin becomes all mucusy. And if you kind of let that go, if you don't go see someone about that.
This is normal, right? I'm normally like sticky everywhere. Like, yeah, no.
Oh, wait, you're not? Ooh, awkward.
Oh, hang on.
Learning things today about people. This is, I mean, it's great for acne, but aside from that.
Now they tell me. Dang.
Aboleth, this is the cure. This is the cure. Your skin becomes translucent and slimy. You have to be underwater. And if you're not, the skin cracks and breaks and you start taking massive damage.
Yeah,
and eventually
you
it
have
kills
1 minute to get this taken care of. You don't have much time
Oh,
before this
geez.
takes effect.
Whoa.
The other thing that it does is if you're fighting it underwater, which is a terrible idea, don't do that ever. That's awful. It's like all the Jaws movies combined into one creature. It releases this mucus cloud, and the mucus cloud, if you suck that in, you lose your ability to breathe regular air, and you can only breathe underwater.
Sorry for a second. I was like, regular air. So bottled air only. Okay.
Bottled air only.
Only the finest. How?
Only Pepsi bottled air.
Has there ever been a scenario where someone successfully just breathes air ad infinitum?
Do you mean like where they breathe normal air?
No, they breathe water. They ended up they
Oh,
no
okay.
longer can breathe air and they have to breathe. I might have missaid it. They could only breathe water. How do they travel with their party? Has anyone experienced
Yeah.
this?
A magical bubble of water around their head. A fishbowl.
Yeah.
Oh no, I like this. Let's go down the line and answer this question. How would each of
Yeah.
A bucket with
Okay.
a hole in the bottom that's fitted around their neck, like a bucket collar, maybe.
So Kayfon's character would come wandering out of the depth with the head of an aboleth in one hand and a giant bucket on his head.
Yeah. It'd have to be made of something, glass maybe. I don't know. Really glass with a plastic seal so you can see through it still. But Yeah.
So you're thinking the old school diver suits, except inside is nothing but water.
Yeah, but
That's
only
very
on the
Bioshock.
head, right? Do you need your full body or just
Well,
your head to be
this
underwater?
is your lungs that's doing this. So
Oh, true. Now the mucus itself becomes your lung. So yeah, it's a full body thing.
well, no, I think
Yeah, that's rough.
if you had just the mucus stuff, let's say that you just had to have your head encased. You could walk around like a fishbowl, man.
Then a bucket would work. I don't think you can though. Just back to the facts of the matter here. We're dealing with. I believe they describe it as the mucus itself is how the creature breathes, and also your skin becomes that translucent mucus when you get it on you, and then that's how you breathe. So you're not actually even using your lungs anymore. You're breathing and getting nutrients through your skin, which is through your slimy.
Morganite, how would you handle this?
I would say farewell to my people and go join the Tritons, because there's no point in leaving at that point.
Okay, so for you, it's the
Essentially,
prequel
yes.
to the Little Mermaid.
Yes.
This is how that all got started. Okay, Aboleths, people. Aboleths were responsible.
That's a great idea. Write that down. Someone write that down. That's a great idea.
Every D&D game is a prequel to a Disney movie somewhere.
Did you? There is a way to get rid of it though. Let's see. What was it? It's like
you drink wine.
Level, no, it's
you
like a 6th
wine.
Level cure disease or something.
No, I'm not joking. It actually says you
Wait,
drink
seriously?
wine. You either drink wine or drink soap, and it gets rid.
But you only have a minute to do that. Who's carrying
another disease curing spell of 6th level or higher? Is what I was able to find. But
yeah, that works too. But I'd rather just be like soap. Like we're either going to travel for days to find the cleric that can cast this, or does anybody have some wine? Because I could get drunk,
sweat out
and
the
just be
mucus, I guess.
fine. I think this was in the 2nd edition. They mentioned that wine and soap cure it, the Monster Manual, which is very 2nd edition.
That's such a
2nd edition
specific-
really wanted you to know it was in your inventory. Who's carrying the soap?
Because one of y'all needs to. It's getting stanky
This is why
here.
you need
please.
the wino on the group, just so you can cure the occasional aboleth corruption.
Ellie, I want to turn this back on you. Let's say that encounter had gone differently. You had sucked in some wonderful aboleth mucus. Who were you playing, and how would they have gotten out of that?
Oh, I was playing a cleric at the time, and this was in the timeline. We had founded our first bar. So we were traveling neck deep in kegs. I don't know if it was wine. That's the thing. We never specified. Our barbarian, Barbu Meadstrider, that's in the name, he may have been traveling with a keg or two. Normally, that's just what we normally do. We always have alcohol on us. And a couple of bags of holding full of God knows what. But I don't know if it was wine. I think I might have kicked it.
Did you not have soap?
Well, we do have a wizard, and he does prestidigitate on us, so we don't need soap.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't know. If we happen to have some wine with us, then lucky us. But we might have kicked it if we fought this guy.
It's just 20 kegs worth of beer.
Maybe. I mean, mead. Barbu Meadstrider. It's a mead bar.
Ooh, mead's kind of on the border of wine and beer.
Honey wine.
Worth a shot.
You could have done more research into this. You could have been the first experiment to see if mead truly counts as a wine.
Yeah, complain to the GM, make an argument. It works sometimes.
Yeah. I wonder if
We would
certain
have to
kinds
find
of
out.
wine don't work. Like maybe it's got to be a really good Pinot.
Where'd you even find this though? Cite your sources.
Okay, fine. Look, I'll pull it up. Go on to the next question while I look for this.
Well, we've already kind of discussed that they can enslave people. How many can they enslave at one time?
And again, another contentious thing. If you go to which I tend to go back to the Dragon magazine articles. I really like them. They're full of great details. They are also
full of lies,
folklore. Like they are told through someone who has adventured effectively. So grain of salt. But they give a really clean in Dragon 131. They give a really clean breakdown of like societal structure, and in that they say that the common Aboleths will gather up to 7, and as soon as they get their 7th, they telepathically communicate to the higher ups, effectively, who come and gather them. The greater Aboleth comes and gathers the slaves, and then takes them to the city and does what they want. So it's constantly building to 7. Though other sources talk about cities, like towns on the coast, and pirate ships that are all slaves. And John, if John wants to hop in and give a little more details from more of the later
Yeah,
books.
absolutely. First, I'll say it is in the second edition Monster Manual that they mentioned the wine. I'll throw it in real quick. Blah blah blah. Here's what the ability. It really sucks. An affected victim attempting to breathe air will suffocate in 2d6 rounds. Wine or soap dissolves the mucus. That's all that they had to say on it. So,
That's a really nice bit of detail right there.
Well, and for me, I assumed it meant drinking soap, but maybe they meant opening the chest and scrubbing the lungs with soap. I'm not sure.
It's external mucus, right?
I think it gets sucked into your lungs. So I think you're either drinking that soap or you're doing a little bit of soap surgery. Ugh. And then as far as the slavery goes, for these guys, the newer editions really kind of limit this ability. But not in terms of how many they can have charmed. It limits just how many times they can do it a day. And it is 3 a day, but there's no limit on how many can do it.
Yeah.
So if they have particularly verbose management skills, they could really take over the world, right?
If they're using Trello, they could do it.
The further you are away
Aboleths and Trello, I knew it.
The further you are away from the Aboleth, the more frequency you have to break the enslavement, though. So it'd be hard to take over the entire world. You have you
could have a small island.
You can have an island for sure, or a coastal town.
Yeah.
And this is actually probably a good time to mention that it is supposed that the Aboleths have taken over the world many times, but they are always defeated in the end. And how and why is sort of usually lost to history. But to kind of give the scope of these creatures, they are presented within the D&D canon as literally the creators of most of the life forms on the planet. And whole societies have risen and fallen, and it's always been ultimately a plot of the Aboleths. This even got carried over to Pathfinder, where it became a bit of a joke amongst the authors of Pathfinder, where an Aboleth did it, became the joke. Because an Aboleth always did it. In the end, it always came down to, and it's an Aboleth. But that's very accurate.
Super cool. So if the whole world is a construct of Aboleths, how come the Aboleth that I met didn't inform me when we were about to become best buds?
You didn't ask the right questions.
Oh, you're right.
Also, he was insane.
Yeah, 10,000
locked
years
up for a long
pit,
time.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah, immortality. All of a sudden, 500 years of being locked up. He's tweaking. Yeah.
And there really are 4 kinds of societal Aboleths. I mean, the Aboleths would be angry at me for breaking their entire society down into 4 pieces. But in general, you have the Aboleths who stay in their underwater cities and just are sort of plotting and waiting. You have the ones that come to the surface to enslave. You have the ones who are kicked out of society because they're insane or because they turn to worshiping gods, which is kind of a no-no amongst the Aboleths. Or you have the Aboleths who desire to be worshipped as gods themselves, which the other Aboleths are really, they like it, but they're kind of don't do it here, bro. Go do it somewhere else. Good luck on being a god. And they send you to the surface, and that's where you get your cultists. And generally, it's those Aboleths that one of those 3 Aboleths that you fight or encounter in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. The real terror Aboleths, the ones that are truly horrifying, are the ones who remain underneath.
All right, so we only see the troublesome guys.
Yeah, and they're kind of the troublesome loners. They're the
right.
ones who aren't as good of planners. They're not the ones who are truly planning for the end of society.
Yeah, just to kind of kick off what you just said, they since I haven't read the newer material, have the ruler Aboleths, the nobles, those classes are still in the more modern mythology, but you were just classify them all as just sort of those left down below, or do they completely ignore as sort of the those previously defined classes in the newer material.
D&D 5 really sort of simplifies a lot of those details. It's one of I love D&D 5, but one of the things I miss from like second and third edition is the amount of detail they would go into with a creature, with its background and things. D&D 5 wanted to simplify things and not scare, players away, especially newer players. Which I super respect, but it does mean they cut out a lot of that kind of stuff. So there's only one Aboleth. They're all sort of assumed to be part of the same tier of society. But, as a DM, the joy of Dungeons and Dragons is that you're not held to any one, interpretation of what the lore is. This is actually something I learned recently was not what Gary Gygax liked. We sort of think of Gary Gygax, a lot of us these days, as this sort of very progressive thinker as RPGs goes, that like everyone could make their own world in your game. But actually, no, he was the one who created all those little details and all those specifics. And he wanted there to be only one way to run Dungeons and Dragons. And they wanted there to be a right way and a wrong way to do it. And that's why he came up with tournament rules and all that stuff. And it was actually one of the major reasons that the rest of TSR, which published Dungeons and Dragons for its early days, eventually really split away from him.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's kind of a crippling thing to do, both to creativity and also to just people trying to explore fantasy.
Yeah.
Did you have any other questions, Elliface?
Well, there was a question in the chat a bit ago. Inevitability of Justice wants to know what the CR of an Aboleth is.
It is high. It is.
I think it's a 10, actually.
Oh, actually, less than I thought. Wow, only a 10. That's crazy.
Really?
Wow.
How does that doesn't take into account like they get? It's like 3 attacks per round. Each attack is like almost guaranteed if it hits you to disease you within a minute, which I guess is after the fight probably, but still. Like they have tons of hit points. I'm surprised it's only a 10, like a base combat challenge rating.
Is that like a champion 10 or a legendary 10?
They are legendary.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, they do have a ton of cool legendary actions.
They removed some of the stuff that I think made them truly physically impressive combatants. For instance, I think it's in 3rd edition. They have the ability that if you're like next to them, they can just fill your lungs with water instantly.
Oh, God.
And,
You do not want to encounter these things close up.
They kind of pulled that stuff out. But I actually hadn't checked the CR before starting the podcast, and I'm surprised. This is a legitimate response of whoa, CR10, okay.
Yeah, geez.
Well, these are kind of more the average Aboleths. Like the really big ones, again, we don't see. So maybe their CR would be a lot higher if you were to encounter something like that.
One of the things that I'd love to do, I'd love to publish this at some point, is like a book of feats for monsters. Not quite as complicated as the Pathfinder feats that that tell you how to do every little thing. Like, oh, you have the toothbrushing feat. But like, this is just a feat for monsters that you could kind of add to them to build them up and, give them back some of these powerful abilities from earlier editions.
Yeah, I'm kind of not very fond of how many of these creatures have been nerfed pretty significantly. I disagree with some of their decisions to do that.
Part of it is a design decision where they really want you to fight monsters in hordes. So a D&D 5 encounter with an Aboleth, one of the better ways to run it would be not to just throw an Aboleth at the players, but they have all their minions. Yeah. I mean, these guys have access to fiends. They have access to whole societies of Kuatoa, to the Drow, to all sorts of underwater monstrosities. Some have aligned themselves with krakens. So, the real way to face an Aboleth is, if you're going to take it physically, is to have all of its minions come after you. Or to do it like Ellie did, where it's insane and you talk to it.
We got really lucky. The whole party got super lucky. We made some good charisma rolls too.
Have we mentioned yet that they're effectively immortal?
No, I don't think we have.
Oh, yeah, that's a good thing to keep in mind. These things are also basically immortal. So when they die, what was John? Like they go back to like the water plane and their body reforms around them and they just are rebirthed.
Yeah, they end up on the elemental plane of water, and that is where a new body is created for them. And then they eventually find their way through the broken portals in our world into the various planets.
Yeah,
That sounds like cheating, Aboleths.
yeah, it's
I'm
legit.
just saying. I'm just saying. Well, on that note, I do want to know. It would be nigh impossible, but if a player character wanted to play an Aboleth, either with an established history or a homebrew history, how would you handle that?
Do you guys? I have an answer
Go
to
for
this, but I've
You're
been
the
talking
DM.
a lot. Do you guys? All right, I just want to make sure I'm not hogging the conversation here, but there are
Teach us, Senpai.
There are two ways. The first is a player by the name of, what was his name? Tyler Campstra has released on the DM's Guild a wonderful product called Monstrous Races, where he took on the awe-inspiring task of taking every single monster in the Monster Manual from 5th edition and making it into a player race.
Oh my gosh.
It's fascinating, and it's really fun because like some of the player races, like if you choose to play as an ooze, he's like, you're not going to be doing much. Or if you choose to play as a mimic, he's like, get ready to just sit in one
The
place
whole time.
for a long time and
Oh, that
pretend
sounds
to
like my
be
kind of game.
You're
Oh,
rerunning
man.
the same battle over and over again with different people. You're in a room. Okay, here's the scene. You're in a room. People just walked in. They touched you. Go. Battle resolves. 10,000 years pass. You're in a room. People walk in. Yeah.
So he talks about the Aboleth as a pretty one-to-one thing, and essentially it's a very, very strong creature that gets a lot of attacks per turn and has lots of telepathy and knows everything and is generally a very hard creature for a player to play. But I will say that if a player wanted to play an Aboleth, the way that I think it would be most fun to do it would either have all the players play Aboleths and set things on a very grand scale.
You're
So
going to
their
take over the
rules-
world. Yeah.
It's like a board
Yeah.
game at that
Oh,
point.
that sounds awesome. Let's do it.
Hey, I will run this game. If you guys want to do
Sold.
this on Twitch, I will run this game.
Kinda.
We could totally do it. It would be, I'd want the things you encounter would be like you encounter a Koa Toa society and you can't just murder them all because you will chase them away or you have to find a way to cleverly enslave them all. So how do you get inside their head? How do you find out what they desire? How do you give that to them while also maintaining control over them? Encounters with other creatures would be like a kraken comes into your area, and these are hugely destructive beasts that can kill you easily. So how do you chase it off without you can't physically confront it. So how do you do this? So I would turn it into very much a game of politics and control. And I think that could be really fun.
It might be really long turns, depending on how you set something
Might
like
be.
that up.
Well, I wouldn't try to play it so much in terms of rounds. I would try to play it in terms of big decisions, and it could be even really more fun if Ellie was playing an insane Aboleth who happened to pair up with this group and kept.
I didn't
doing
catch the
crazy
dude's
things.
name. I'd love to roleplay this Aboleth that we were talking to. He was a cool guy. He was having a good day. And I'd never even asked his name. I'm so rude.
And he never got his beer. Some point in the future, he's going to show up at that pub, terrify half the place to death, and just be like, I'm just here for a pint.
So, question. We're by the docks. We're like a block or two in from the dock edge in Waterdeep. How the heck would an Aboleth show up? Like, how do they can only swim, right?
No.
They can actually exist outside of water. Yeah.
Would they flop or what?
I mean, I'm not sure how they move,
Like, how
but they
embarrassing
can.
is this?
they can definitely survive outside of the water for some time.
Some have the ability to levitate depending on which source book you go to.
Whoa.
Oh my god. That would be
That's excessive.
terrifying.
Well, they also travel by teleportation and magic.
Yeah. Well, don't call it magic, John. They don't use magic.
I mean, they do.
Well-
They do have magic.
I think they would be offended if you called it magic. They don't they abhor magic? Isn't it science? Is their
Well,
science and mind powers.
Maybe this is a good time to actually talk about the Aboleth's brain, because the Aboleth's brain is actually 5 brains put on top of each, all stacked differently. I will jump back for the viewers to the anatomy picture. I didn't grab a picture of the brain anatomy, but you can see here.
Oh, it definitely doesn't.
There
look
is
like
one
a
part of the
brain.
brain here, the second here, the third is up here. Whoops, I moved that. Sorry, and it goes further back, and each part of the brain does something different. But one of them in particular is channels. It creates its own magic and channels magic, not just psychic energy. It actually creates arcane energy.
Oh, cool.
And this is called the dorsal lobe. It's not the largest part of the brain. The ventral lobe is the largest. Now we're getting into real deep esoterica here.
Yeah, really.
But yeah, they can pull themselves sort of awkwardly along the ground.
That's what, I mean, chat is saying that they would walk daintily on their tentacles. And if we're gonna do a game, that's gotta be the way we get around. I'm sorry.
I mean, I love it.
Tentacle tippy toe.
I kind of love the way they do it more, though, because they literally vomit onto the ground in front of them to create mucus and then slide themselves over.
Oh, it's a mucus slick. And they just, oh, no. Oh.
Now it's ruined. No, what have you done? Oh.
I mean, you could be daintily walking over your own vomit, like, oh, don't touch it, don't touch it.
No.
Behold the Aboleth and their majesty.
Oh.
Well, I love the words they use to describe this. They literally call them the orifices. And the more orifices an Aboleth has, the more well-endowed it is considered to be. The orifices actually have nothing
What is this podcast?
The orifices are actually not considered sexual in nature, though. They are used to breathe, sense, speak, and expel mucus into the surrounding area. That's how they vomit their ooze up.
So, real quick, I've seen Yoshi in Yoshi's story. He can get a little speed boost if he spits fruit juice in front of him and runs across it. So it's basically that.
Well, Yoshi is an Aboleth. He's one of the...
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's a small one. You know. This does lead me to something we don't talk a lot about, which is language.
Well, they're psychic, right? So is it all telekinetic kind of speech, or do they actually have languages?
Well, Ellie, did you talk to yours outside of psychic, or...
Not with mouth words. We spoke psychically. I don't know if we got our wizard to use Rary's telepathic bond so that we could all speak to each other. That seemed like it might have been a dangerous maneuver because, hey, just be in my brain all the time is cool. No, that's probably a bad idea for an Aboleth. I think he did just speak to us psychically, and we were able to speak out loud and he could hear us because the way that Aboleths work, it was all muddled a bit.
They do have their own language, and it's spoken through those orifices, and it sounds like a combination of trombones, trumpets, and tubas. And in fact, some people in early D&D would try to talk to Aboleths by playing the trombone, which I don't know how they did under...
I absolutely love that.
And according to Aboleths who were talked to in this way, it sounded very uncultured.
I will subscribe forever if you put a sad trombone sound in this podcast right now.
Done. So that was a thing. That the language is exceptionally complex to actually speak well. Apparently, you need an entire brass band to do it. Don't know how that works underwater, but
poorly.
You can make it happen. Maybe they're all wearing Kayvon's buckets. Now, Ellie, one thing you said this Aboleth got inside your head. We're going to get into some therapy session now. So, did you know that when an Aboleth gets inside a character's head, if a creature communicates telepathically with the Aboleth learns the creature's greatest desires?
Oh, I don't think we went over this.
So I don't know. Maybe your GM is holding something out on you there.
Huh.
They now know. They now know.
She was saying that they knew her intention, which would be effectively that same thing, right? Like that would be They knew their desires. They knew their thoughts. They knew their intention. I think that was
pretty hungry.
That was like a DM play. I think there.
Was hunger your cleric's motivating factor?
It usually is. Normally, yes. Hunger and the desire for a vacation. Yes. No, we never covered that. I wonder how that would have changed. Because not every single, the party is pretty neutral. We're all neutral. We do quests and then we retain cash and then business, commerce, neutral.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that would have changed what the Aboleth was thinking, because if we're just out here to make money and have business and live wealthily, would it be in our actual best interest to free this thing into the world? Or it knowing something about us, would that have caused us to maybe not want to save it? And then it's cyclical knowledge. Do you kind of see where I'm going with this? Like, if it knew our actual desires, which was just to make money, would it have actually known that we wouldn't make it a priority to come back and save it?
Well, I think it did agree to go drink at your bar, so maybe it was just trying to help you make money.
Maybe. That's an interesting thought. Okay, I'm going to go to my DM with that one.
Yeah. You think having an Aboleth like show up at your bar would actually increase revenue? Like, hey, this is the bar the Aboleth went to, so maybe.
It's our new ad campaign. Aboleth campaign. I hate it. Thanks.
So I'm noticing all of them, like most of the illustrations that John has been throwing up here, they all have 3 eyes, and it does say in the information that I was finding that they have 3 eyes. Is there any particular reason why 3 in particular, or just, that's just the way it is?
Nothing that I read. They gave a specific answer as to why. Did you see anything, John, in the more detailed biology breakdown?
Only that it did confirm that all aboleths have 3 eyes. They see as well as a human in bright light. In complete darkness, they do have dark vision, and that's pretty much it. They didn't say why that is, and it is definitely a weird sort of characteristic. So, Ellie, I wanted to share something else with you, and I wanted to get your opinion on it.
Here we go.
So, one, we've talked about how the Aboleth have flawless memories. They remember everything going all the way back. And this is one of the reasons they are considered like evolutionary in this world, to be sort of advanced. Which kind of gives, the nature of human memory is that it is inherently flawed and biased. And if it's said in reading about Aboleths, if a human gets to glimpse into the way that an Aboleth perceives, time in this flawless way, they will go insane. So is this saying that clarity leads to insanity? What do you think? Do you think we rely on our biases to get us through?
Are we about to get political up in here?
Political, philosophical.
Uh-oh.
You're steering this.
Oh man, I don't know. I've always considered myself, like all of us, we consider ourselves realists. Like we perceive the world as real, but like at the end of the day, we all have skewed memories. Especially as you get up there in numbers. I don't know. That's a very Lovecraftian thing to say. Like to glimpse into the behind the curtain of clarity is to go mad with knowledge. Like that's such a Cthulhuian idea. As a fan of H.P. Lovecraft, maybe there's something to that. I do think in the lifespan of an Aboleth, though, probably, I don't know if I buy it. I don't know if I buy that knowing everything an Aboleth knows is the thing that makes you go crazy. But I wasn't there at the formation of the entire universe, so what am I to say?
I mean, one of the things that Aboleths consider of other races is because they don't experience truth, I mean, the Aboleths, they say they remember truly how everything, they have perfection in their memory. This is part of what they are. And all these other humanoid races don't. We see things imperfectly. And that is one of the reasons.
You call them evil.
I think I'm with Kaven here. I think transcendent should be.
Yeah, they're beyond alignment. They know truth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not what they know that makes them evil. It's what they do with the knowledge they lord it over everybody and try to end the world.
I have a question. How are we not already overrun with these things if they have existed since before time and are reproduced every
and they
5
don't
years
die.
and they don't die? Like, how are we not just drowning in Aboleth mucus at this point?
There is a theory on this. So it says that at one point, so first of all, Aboleths exists, again, I said they're antediluvian. They exist before, almost the only thing that existed before the Aboleths were the Elder Evils. And the Elder Evils are the Cthulhus of the truly the Lovecraftian gods and deities that came before all. You know, the creators of the darkness before darkness, all that kind of stuff. Then it was the Aboleths, and they were specifically the spawn of one of the Elder Evils, known as, what was the name? These are not easy names to remember. It is like Piskeskathi or something.
How many apostrophes?
No apostrophes, but a lot of vowels. Piscathsis.
You want to type it out?
No, I think I need a trombone
okay.
to play it to get it right. In any case, the Aboleths were created by them, and they actually did take over, and they created life so that they could enslave it, and they were everywhere. And the way that they were defeated is really interesting to the canon, because they kept everyone in such enslavement that eventually these slaves thought, we have to create something else, or there's literally no reason to exist. That there is no such thing as hope. So they created hope. They created something else to believe in. And their belief was so strong that it actually created stories of deities stronger than the Aboleths. And their faith grew to such a point that these deities sprang into life. And that is where the gods come from in D&D canon. And the gods turned on the Aboleths as directed by the people who had created them, and struck them down, struck such a blow to them that the Aboleth society has never been able to recover fully.
I'm gonna go with chat. That sounds like a Disney movie. Can we get this?
Mostly it reminds me of Bambi.
Oh,
that's
Sounds
really
like
the
Greek-
one.
It
It
sounds
really
like
does.
mythology, like the Titans are overthrown by the children, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
This is the opening to Moana, right?
This image that he has up right now kind of looks like it, yeah.
What I like about that story is that it does this cool thing where it creates this sort of relationship between humanoids and their gods, where the gods were brought into being by them, but then also, were these all-powerful creatures getting their power from their worshippers. It creates a really nice canon for this universe. Or that's just the story of a mad wizard. Ignore it.
Scrawlings of a mad wizard. Don't ask me. I don't know anything. It's his story.
I had trouble with that name that I was saying, and that kind of takes me to the idea of Aboleth names. We get these names, like some of them are very, like you said, it's all apostrophes. Nevik the Sekthagag. And, I'm sure there's one that's just a loud farting tuba sound. Some of them are really simple, and more terrifying for that, the wave or the tide or the inevitability. Things
Which,
like
by the way, I think that is a group of Aboleths.
An inevitability.
It's an inevitability. I can't even say it.
There
See?
we go.
I've
We
taken
found
over.
the name.
I like that. An inevitability of Aboleths. That's good. That's good. That's canon in my world now. I'm going to
Excellent.
use that. But here's my question to the group, and I'll start with you, Ellie. If you were an Aboleth, what would your name be?
Has anyone here played the game Eternal Darkness?
Yes.
The GameCube?
Yes.
Takes way back.
Oh, no, I've always
Yeah.
wanted to know.
I've
yeah.
always been a huge fan of the sanity representation monster. I would call it a monster. And her name was Xelatoth, spelled XEL''Lotath. I just like that name.
She was the green one, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Nice. That's a cool. Yes. Okay. Xelatoth.
Not just Xelatoth, Mistress Xelatoth,
Ooh.
as everyone
Oh,
in the
well,
game said. Yeah.
Clearly.
Well, you're hermaphroditic in this, so would it be like Would mistress, would that be your preferred pronoun?
Mistress works for
I
both.
think so, yeah.
You can pick your gender.
Yeah, you can pick your gender. So is it that's okay. So Mistress Zelatoth.
Is
All right.
mistress the longest prefix you can get to your name?
Oh.
Because I wanted a long name. I want a real long. Mistress Zelatoth Esquire. Like, let's take it all the way.
I think Baroness is probably longer.
Ooh, Baroness. Nope, I like that one.
Well, at that point, you have to go take over your own little island nation.
Baroness Zelatoth. Okay, we're building our party here. This is for our game. We've got Baroness Zelatoth. Morganite, who would you be?
Oh my god, I can't think of names on the fly. You know this. I agonize over character names for weeks
That's
before I
true.
pick them. That's why they're good.
That's true. You do spend a lot of time. So we'll assume it's something unpronounceable and
Probably.
completely has a language background that I'll shorten it to something like Pug. So Morganite's playing Pug the Aboleth. Kayvon, how about you? Who would you be?
Ursula.
Ooh, poor unfortunate souls.
Yeah.
I love it.
Are you sure you don't want to go Flotsam?
No, Ursula. The sea witch.
There.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'd have many
Let's see
nicknames. The
what I
locals
get.
would call me many things, but those who knew me would call me Ursula.
To your face? To your face, was it Ursula?
Yeah.
That's good. I like it.
Yeah, can I throw something out there I'm curious about?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, John, did you get any deeper into the Mind Flayer, Illithid connection with the Aboleths? Because there's definitely a lot of real interesting stuff there to mine.
In fact, that is one of the questions on the chat is how did the feud with Mind Flayers or the Illithid begin? It sounds like you got into this a little bit, Kayvon.
Oh, I know. I want to hear what you have to say, Jonathan.
Okay.
I know what I think. I'm curious to hear what you think right now.
Well, I did not dive as deep as I wanted, but I will give a lead in, and then you can take
Okay.
it from there. Last time on the Bestiary, we did Illithid. So these are Mind Flayers. For anybody who listened there, you'll know what we're talking about. But for those who don't, quick recap, Mind Flayers are brain-eating, tentacle-faced humanoids who are very psionic and are pretty scary. What we cover, what their history with the relationship, I should say, with the Aboleths is an interesting one because the Aboleths have no memory of the Mind Flayers coming into existence. They were suddenly
Yep,
there.
that would be so unsettling for them, I think.
That's absolutely right. It's really terrifying for them. And the Mind Flayers, for their part, come from let's say, a time and place where the Aboleths don't exist. And that place is the future. So you could see this would really bother the Aboleths too, if they were ever to discover that. The two do work together because there's sort of a mutual fear and respect that they would rather work together than and know what each other is up to rather than apart. But that was really the extent of where I went with that, Kayvon. Do you have more?
Yeah, so just a little bit more. But effectively, that's the gist is that the Aboleths come from the beginning. They are the first and
The
at the
alpha.
very end, the alpha. And at the very end of time, the Mind Flayers have effectively won. They're fleeing a world of absolute destruction. They are the Omega, and they are now come together in the present moment. And it's this combining of I don't know. That's kind of a cool little thing within the D&D world that both like the first and the final creatures of existence are here on the plane interacting together, and sort of what can that breed? What does that, lead to in the crazy world of, GMing? So.
Yeah, I do love that. That's a really cool thing. Some other questions on the chat. We heard people do want to know what they taste like. We haven't done. I don't think we did that for our last one. So time to get.
I don't think you'd want to eat one though, because if their whole thing is this mucus stuff that'll make you horribly diseased and living in the water forever, would you really want to ingest that? I sure as heck wouldn't.
Only if you had soap.
I mean, I don't know. A lot of people really like to eat octopus, and that's arguably.
Well, I mean, I've never had an octopus take over my brain, but I just, yeah, tentacle monsters are not really appealing.
Yeah, I didn't find anything. I say you can eat anything, right? Like, yeah, just risk it. Like risk it. Like worst case scenario,
Just
you have
go
a
for
minute.
it.
You have a minute before you turn transparent and gooey, and you might.
Oh, well, as long as you have a giant,
As long as you have water nearby,
carafe of
you'll be
wine
all
over
right.
there.
A healer will save you. But I'm just
Okay.
saying, that hasn't stopped. At least one person has done it. Like some giant
Oh,
out
sure.
there has.
Somebody's
I
done
mean-
it.
I
That's
haven't.
funny.
I haven't seen. I didn't see any anything that would give me an answer
Like-
though. So we can guess. Like, what are they? They are they're
Well,
an
like
octopusy
shrimp
type creature.
or-
They don't have a shell, right? Like they have tentacles, but the tentacles are probably jellyish.
Wouldn't
They're
that make
covered in
them
a ooze.
cephalopod?
Octopus or
they're probably,
squid kind of the
similar to
texture is my
octopus
thought.
octopus
Yeah.
or squid. Some sort of like a hagfish looking thing. Yeah.
Mm.
I will say I do
Yep.
have one question about if something comes to mind about eating them. So when an aboleth eats other creatures, and I should mention an aboleth has a very interesting digestive system. They first of all have teeth that go all the way down their esophagus and into their stomach.
Hot.
Well, you're definitely not making it back out.
So
Not that
and
way,
that's
anyway.
the thing. You kind of enter the aboleth's belly as a slurry because you've been just ripped to shreds by teeth all the way down. They have what is it called? It's called a millifast. Is located before the stomach, and it kind of it takes some of the slurry and puts it aside, and sort of saves it for later and processes it separately. And then they can they can eat like one meal and it can last them months. They really don't need to eat very much. But when they eat a humanoid creature, there's an after sort of burp that happens, and they experience that creature's memories and emotions.
Oh no.
And so for a long time after eating a humanoid, they can get flashes of their life, and they consider this a true culinary delight. This is like the best thing. They also prefer to cover their meat in their mucus before eating it because they like the taste of their own bile. And that's considered, they call that flavoring the meat.
Is it too late to change my monster for this?
Yeah, no, go for it. What are you thinking?
It was way slimier than I ever anticipated. Jeez.
They don't have to eat people though, right? Like they can survive off of like
Algae.
organisms.
Well, I don't think-
algae, like little tiny microorganisms. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's-
Oh, yeah.
It's really
So it's not just going after like sharks and whales and larger
Unnecessary.
predators. It's just like whatever. Are they like baleen whales where they just like sift through like the water, or do they just swallow stuff continuously?
They can go for krill like that. It's considered rural weak sauce. Like if you that's like
yeah,
your
it's not nice.
Yeah.
It's not, they prefer to
Vegetarian.
have absorb the memories and spirits, but it's they
Okay.
don't have to.
It's sort of like if a vegan showed up to your barbecue party and like the other aboleth are like, dude.
Who invited the vegan?
Dude, what's going on here? Nothing against vegans, but I do have something against people who eat krill.
Oh,
People.
when you were going through the body parts, you didn't mention the double brain or the double hearts.
They do have a double heart.
They have a heart.
Yep.
Their brain is so complicated; it has its own heart. That was a kind of a cool piece of trivia.
Holy
Yeah,
cow!
Oh.
Is that second heart like right underneath
Yeah,
the
it's
brain
right
or
next to the
something?
brain.
Like
Yeah,
Because their brain is that big, it actually needs a heart to power
yeah.
it.
It's like a
Holy
fifth of their
cow.
body mass or something crazy.
And between the hearts is something called the niltfast, which converts liquid mucus into a foul-smelling gas, which they use to regulate the way they float and move through the water. That's how the creature, being so massive, because it's 6,500 pounds, can move around in the water.
Wow.
So
It'd be a funky, gassy meal, is what he's saying.
well, what I'm wondering is if you ate one of these things, would you experience the memories and emotions?
We are
of-
about to put this on the menu at Fantastic Drinks and Where to Find Them. Let's go. It's our bar in Waterdeep. We're going to find Aboleth. You will experience memories. Let's do this. I'm ready.
but would that only work if you're eating the brain or if you're just like a slice of off the flake?
No, I think I've got this. This is going to happen somewhere. You actually have a bar where they have taps going directly into a living aboleth, and you can serve memories. You can drink memories and experiences. So people can come in and you can be like, we'll tap a little drow for you, or we'll tap like some anger for you. Here we go.
It's like a rat. You have no idea what memories you're going to experience. It's like the birth of the sun, or the horrible death of some dwarf.
Here we're going to go down the line again. What would you name? What would your drink be at that place? What would your on tap drink be, Kayvon?
I kind of like yours, just like a tap of memories or something simple.
What would you call it though? What would you name
just call
it?
it the tap of memories or something cute
Tap
like
of
that.
okay.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get too crazy.
Tap of memories. Morganite, you're terrible at this naming thing, but do you want to give it a shot?
Yep. Not off the. Oh God, you
I got
guys.
one. I got one. I'll give you a second.
Come back to me in 20
I'll give you a
minutes.
second. So the name, I'm trying to think of a good name for it, but the gist of it would be, you know, when you're about to fall asleep and you suddenly remember every awkward moment that you've ever had? That.
So you'd call it wet dream.
Opposite.
Not quite.
Opposite.
No, not quite. The opposite of that.
No, not at all.
You know, like when you're like, oh, I said something awful to that girl one time.
Oh, what? Man, it took me a second to flow with that one, but that's a really good name.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it puns on all levels. I love it. Okay.
Wet dream. Okay.
It's a Druce.
So what popped into my head though is Greek. It's the Greek goddess of memory, which is like I can never pronounce her name though. It's like
Oh yeah.
Nemesine.
I think that's right. That's really cool. I like
How
that.
many small breweries are just listening to this podcast right now?
None.
Like, sweet new names. Let's go. We got it finally.
One. I'll go with one. But here's the trick. You can only get the drink if you can pronounce it properly.
No.
Yeah, Nemesine. Yeah, you're totally right. Nemesine, Greek mythology.
Because it's spelled Mnemosyn.
It's like mnemonic,
so it's a
though.
weird spelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's
Nemesine.
Nemesine. Yeah.
That's really cool.
I love it when that
Nemesine's
happens.
a great name. I gotta hold on to that one. Just like
Yeah.
save that for later. That's
I know. I really want to go to a bar now and order a Nemesine and see what, you know. I mean, they just tell me to screw off, but I mean, that's I know exactly what would happen, but it'd be fun for a minute. Okay, does anybody, if anybody, nobody has any more stuff, does anybody have bits of trivia, anything?
Yeah, we should give credit to the originator. So David Zeb Cook.
Yes.
Congratulations, you created an epic monster. All respect due.
Well, and Zeb Cook was kind of one of the originals of D&D. He was a game designer who was brought on at TSR, and he worked there for quite a while. He was actually there was a lot of turnover at TSR in those early years, and he was one of the ones who stuck around.
I saw earlier he worked on Fallout 2 also. Classic.
His stuff pops up all over the place, and he was a big fan of, I shouldn't say was, he's still alive.
Yeah.
He's a big fan of Lovecraft. And so there's a lot of the Lovecraftian stuff comes from him. And honestly, with the Aboleth, he really succeeded. It is the Lovecraft of D&D. I mean, I know Mind Flayers touch on it, but like this really feels like Lovecraft could have written this monster. I think Lovecraft would have been scared of the Aboleth for sure, but he was also scared of everything. So I have one last bit of trivia from me that I thought was really interesting. One thing that Aboleths fear is a fate worse than death. As we said, they can't really die, but they do have a fate worse than death for them. And that is if an Aboleth ends up on land and for whatever reason cannot cover its skin in water or mucus, it eventually dries out. And what happens is it goes into a hibernative state where its skin becomes rock hard and it's still alive underneath all that, and it's very aware, but it cannot influence or move or wake up. It's just aware of everything going on around it. And this is actually called the long dreaming. And Aboleths fear this greatly. It doesn't kill them. They can be revitalized with magic, powerful magic. or by being submerged again, which could be a great campaign thing. A evil wizard trying to find the spell to revive a aboleth, a stone aboleth.
Or they build a
But-
dam and the dam floods a region, and then the region now, an aboleth wakes up that was in that region.
Or the dam itself is one of these aboleths
Hmm.
that's been turned to stone, and when it wakes up, the whole region becomes flooded and becomes its domain. All cool stuff that could happen there. So that is one last bit of trivia I just wanted to share with everybody.
That is horrifying.
And I'll finish out with a question for the group again.
Oh, real quick.
Oh,
real
go
quick.
ahead.
I wanted to pull one from chat because
Yes, please,
I have
please.
so much respect for this question. Who would you rather have a cocktail party with? A mind flayer or an aboleth?
Oh, that's a good question. Should we just go down the line?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's start with Ellie.
I don't know. I've had some good conversations with an aboleth, and if it could give me a glimpse into the creation of the universe, that seems like it might be pretty cool. So, also, he'd probably drink vodka, which is also straight down my lane. So, yeah, an aboleth. I think so.
One vote for aboleth. That's great. Morganite?
I'd have to go Mind Flayer.
Why?
I'm less interested in the beginning of things than I am in the end of things.
Ooh.
Ooh, nicely done.
That
was my
That's
inner
some-
goth talking right there.
that's some dark shit right there. That's
But I mean, it just feels like there'd be more to discuss that we don't know coming from the future, as opposed to the lore and history that you grow up kind of saturated by. And sure, you don't know everything, and I'm sure the Aboleths could answer some of those questions. But I just, for me personally, would be more curious about the other end of time.
Kayvon.
Yeah, so I was gonna say Mind Flare earlier when I was initially thinking of it, because I don't know, when I imagine having a drink, I kind of pictured doing that not at the bottom of an ocean. But I feel like when you think about what the thralls are like, Mind Flare thralls are really just really just slaves until they're eaten. And it with Aboleths, you have a I don't know, like they're kind of like they're more kind of like running around, like doing work, like worshiping them, and for, like they're eaten every so often also. But I feel like they have a little bit more of like a unique, like an actual life outside of just being a thrall. Like they get to trap people and make sacrifices and all that kind of fun stuff. So I feel like I'd rather
More free will.
Yeah, considering I'm gonna have to live this way for a while.
No,
after
you're
this
just having
drink.
tea with them.
No, I love it.
this is like,
Kayvon's
I'm gonna be
version.
a
Just having
thrall
a drink
forever.
at a cocktail
No,
party.
no,
You're not.
No. You're gonna be their thrall because that's how it works. I'd rather be the thrall of an aboleth.
I love the way you answered that. That is the realistic way. You're like, it's not, I'm going to get to have a drink. It's, I'm forced to have a drink.
They're not going to let you out of that cave. Like, there's no convincing them.
I
you're gonna
live here
release them
now.
later. You're dead. Like, you're there now forever.
For me, it would be, I'm going to go with the Mind Flayer. I think because in terms of being able to relate to them, it's kind of what I got back to earlier. Aboleths have this whole, like, their perception of history is so beyond what I could understand that I think conversation with them would sort of be like when I go to a convention and meet a celebrity. I just say stupid shit, and I think I would say really dumb stuff to an aboleth. What do you say to a thing like that? Whereas a Mind Flayer, they have culture, and I mean it's a messed up culture, but they have culture and desires. They don't know everything or the future, and I mean, I think we could just relate more. I mean, I think like I could have a drink of a Mind Flayer and be like, "Work sucked today," and he could be like, "Yeah, tell me." and I could handle that conversation.
Where an
I could
aboleth would
handle
be
it.
like, today? And just like overwhelmed by all of the todays.
Or he'd be like, let me tell you the history of work. I'm like, oh God, no, this is far more than one drink.
So I guess the next question is what kind of cocktail would you have with your chosen monster?
Well, is this a cocktail? Is this like what drink, or is this a part? Like what kind of like setting? Like a cocktail
No,
party?
like what drink? What would you
Okay,
drink
what
with
What drink?
with your Mind Flayer?
I thought we were drinking. What was it? Nemazine? No, that's not right. What is it?
That's made of aboleth.
No, I know, but I drink that with an aboleth. Okay, why not? Let's bond over something. What was it? How did you pronounce that one again, Morgan?
Bond over this dead guy's memories.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
glad
good.
we've named
That's
a drink. So when we set up our own bar, IRL, we have our first drink.
I guess so.
For me, it would be my go-to drink of choice, especially if I'm a little nervous because it gets me there and back again, is a Vesper. I love me a Vesper. And I can't see how that would change being face down with a demon creature of the far plains.
I'm gonna take a left from cocktails and it would end up being just a scotch or whiskey. I'm I don't know. That seems too fruity to hang out and talk about end of times. You need a nice stiff
You're not going to
drink.
get like a pina colada.
No. So what's the end of the world like? Little umbrella. Out of my coconut. Yeah, no. That just
No lime wedge? Ah, so disappointed.
Sorry.
The acid is bad for mucus. Ellie, what about you? What's your drink?
Your girl would show up with a keg of wine just in case. Just in
She's prepared.
case. I'm not taking any chances.
Just no. You just roll the barrel in and just like sit in it the whole time. Oh man. All right. So what do we have coming up next?
I think our next one is we've got a couple people on the list. We have Shambling Mounds in the mix, and we also have Beholders in the mix. If we do Beholders next, that will be Owen Casey Stevens, who is a game designer. He creates adventures, has done tons of them. He worked for Green Ronin Publishing. He worked for Wizards of the Coast. He worked for Paizo and did a lot of Pathfinder things. And he's all around just an incredible producer of Dungeons and Dragons material. And then if we did Shambling Mounds, that would be Freya, who, do you want to give her bio, Morganite?
Yeah, Freya's one of our wonderful group of Twitch streamers, and she's lovely and adorable. And she started playing Carrying Crown with John, me, and Stalker a year ago, and life got crazy. We haven't had a chance to continue that, but she really enjoyed, getting to try D&D for the first time, and so she's real curious about plant monsters because we haven't encountered anything like that. So yeah, Freya will be our next one.
All right. Well, Ellie, do you feel like you got what you wanted to know about Aboleths?
My knowledge is sated, Jonathan. Thank thee. Seriously, thank you guys for having me on this. This was a romp. This was good fun.
It was nice having you.
We'd love to have you back for a less slimy monster.
Please.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you for hanging out, everybody. And
that was fun.
Yeah, and we hope you enjoyed. Come check out our channel. We've got if you go to alignmentmayvary.com, that's where all of our past episodes are stored in kind of a vault. And you can also search for us on various podcast apps, and we've got several stories going along, as well as our Alignment May Vary radio play. Episode 2 just launched earlier this month, so that's exciting. Episode 3 will be next.
We release
1st?
on the 1st of every month,
Go?
and it is very much a radio play set in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. Follows a game that we've been playing for a very long time, and is a lot of fun.
Indeed. All right. So thank you so much for hanging out. Keep an eye on the channel for specific dates when we get all that hashed out. It's a little difficult juggling multiple people, but we'll get there. And yeah, so thanks again for watching. We'll catch you all soon. Bye.